Dozens of unions marched in Massena this morning in celebration of Labor Day. As 7 News reporter Sean Brinda tells us, union leaders say as they deal with issues like overtime hours and short staffing, it's important to have a day like today.
The unofficial end to summer began with the Massena Central Marching Band parading down Main Street in downtown Massena. Following behind were multiple unions from across the North Country, marching with pride while handing out candy to kids. Massena Labor Day Parade Chairman Ron McDougall says that this year's annual Labor Day Parade was a success with multiple unions signing up to march.
I'm told it's 40-some, but I don't know that for sure. So plenty and a good crowd, good crowd downtown, and a number of marchers.
According to local labor union leaders, this Labor Day is especially important as unions across the country are gaining more members.
I think it's our time, definitely our time, to join a union, get together, collectively bargain an agreement with an employer to make it fair.
Shannon Victoria De Silva of the Public Employees Federation says that workers today are struggling just as much as workers from more than 90 years ago in terms of making sure their rights are met.
I mean, we're dealing with still overtime, long hours. We're dealing with short staffing. We're dealing with poor working conditions, and the list continues. So it's extremely important for us to have a day like this so that everyone throughout the world can know that we're marching for basic rights.
Union members gathered together after the parade for a community barbecue. Sean Brinda, 7 News.